134. Any rate, Rudy nodded. After about 30 minutes, I heard whoever it was move away. I stayed an extra hour to make certain that I didn't hear any more. Then I got up and went on. I'd gone about an hour when I heard you behind me. And that's when you climbed a tree to see if you could catch a glimpse of me? Asked Oscar. Rudy nodded. Do you think maybe it was a German following me, hoping that I might lead him to you or some other soldiers? Asked Rudy. That's what I was thinking. Oscar gave a wiry grin. Guess you've got some brains after all. But why would he give up? Asked Rudy. Don't know. It's not much like a German, is it? Sure isn't, Oscar agreed. Especially not a German who's tracking someone, he added. All I can say, boy, you ran into one who either had lost his mind or who was struck blind when you sat down against that tree. Still, there's no guarantee that he won't be back. So we'd better get moving. Where exactly are we going? Asked Rudy. Wait and see, said Oscar. Unwilling to take chances, Oscar not only took an indirect route, but also left an intricate network of confusing tracks behind them. He doubted and redoubled his path until Rudy feared to lose sight of him. That German would have to be a genius to follow your trail, Rudy commented. Then we're safe, sure enough, Oscar said. By the time they finally reached Oscar's hideout, it was late in the afternoon. Rudy was ravenous, and he was glad when Oscar turned to him and said gruffly, I'm starving. Never did get lunch. Think you could eat something? Anything, replied Rudy. I think we're in luck. Although I lost one rabbit today, looks as if I got another, he said as he moved forward a few steps and knelt down. Rudy went over and knelt beside him. Sure enough, there was a dead rabbit caught in one of Oscar's handmade traps. That's a funny-looking trap, said Rudy, observing it more closely. A look of annoyance passed over Oscar's grim features. Does the trick. Enough to be feeding you tonight, anyway. Rudy decided that Oscar disliked criticism almost as much as he enjoyed praise, a fact that Rudy determined to keep in mind. There's another good thing about this trap, Oscar continued. It kills the game instantly, and that's important. It's cruel to use a trap that simply maims the creature and leaves it suffering for hours. Remember that, he said. Then he turned and without further comment set about the task of skinning and cleaning the rabbit. Rudy watched with fascination as Oscar deftly did his work. Ready to eat? Oscar asked when he had finally finished cleaning it. Rudy glanced hesitantly at the carcass. We're not going to eat him raw, are we? Oscar afforded himself a smile at Rudy's expense. Only if you want to. Personally, I prefer my meat cooked. Rudy bristled a little under Oscar's scornful gaze, but only said, I'm with you. Good, that's settled, said Oscar. Now, for your first experience in cooking in a forest kitchen, first off, we want a fire that smokes as little as possible. That means we want to use dry, dead twigs. If you get them off the ground, they're probably too damp. So it's better to break them off the bushes like this, he said, demonstrating. Rudy followed Oscar's example, and before long they had a whole stack of twigs to work with. Oscar then took a match out of his pocket and held it up to Rudy. See that? He said, pointing at the tip of the match. I covered it with candle wax. Now, why do you think I did that? Rudy shrugged. Think, boy! To keep them dry, said Oscar. Matches are precious, and we can't afford to waste them. How do you get more when you run out? Asked Rudy. Villagers, said Oscar. I make a trip to one of the farm villages nearly every night. You'd be surprised at how many people are willing to help, though it's getting more dangerous for them to do so. If the Germans catch them supplying any soldiers, they're in real trouble. Still, it's hard to stop one good Pole from helping another. Oscar took a handful of twigs and put the match to them. Almost immediately they were aflame. While I'm getting this fire underway, I want you to take the billy can over there, go down to the river, and fill it with water. We can boil it and have some to drink. Rudy got the can and set off. Collect 5 or 6 stones on your way back, too, Oscar called after him. By the time Rudy returned with the water and stones, Oscar had cut the rabbit meat into thin, small strips and placed it on a large flat rock. He then put the rock on the fire, and before long the meat was sizzling on this homemade grill. Want me to hold a can of water over the fire till it boils? Asked Rudy. Not unless you'd like to cook your fingers as well, said Oscar. We can heat the stones you brought and drop them in the water. They'll bring it to a boil in no time, and after it's boiled a while, it will be safe enough for us to drink. Rudy handed him the stones he had collected. Now, just set the can over there until I get these good and hot, Oscar said as he placed the stones on the grill besides the meat. And hand me the rest of those twigs, he added. Rudy turned around and started picking up the twigs for him. He had just gotten a good handful when bang, bang, bang! Shots rang out behind him. He spun around, expecting to find Oscar lying at his feet. Instead, he saw him doubled over in laughter. One thing's for sure, said Oscar, laughing uproariously. If that German's anywhere close by, those explosions will probably send him running. And if they don't, the look on your face will. Rudy felt his temper starting to go, but he clamped down on it. He wondered if Oscar had played a trick on him just to scare him. What in the world was that? He asked. Did you get those stones from the riverbank? Oscar asked. Yes, but never eat stones that have been in the water, or even close to it for that matter. They explode. That's why I told you to pick them up on the way back, after you've gotten the water. Sorry. No harm done, Oscar said, shaking his head at Rudy's vast inexperience. Just give me 4 or 5 more. While collecting the stones, Rudy had time to think about the incident. When the rocks exploded, it was as if Oscar had been transformed. The fierce, wild expression had vanished, and he looked cheerful, almost comic in appearance. Rudy would have expected most people to get angry with him for making such a blunder, but Oscar just laughed it off. Maybe he's not so gruff as I thought at first, said Rudy to himself. Maybe there's another side to him. That thought was reassuring. Here's a few more, said Rudy, returning to the fire with several dry stones. Rabbit's almost ready, said Oscar as he turned the meat over. I hope you like it well done. Suits me fine, said Rudy as he sat down close to the fire. Oscar put the new stones on, heated them, and used them to boil the water. Once it was purified, he poured some into 2 small mugs made of bark. He gave one to Rudy and set the other down for himself. How long has it been since you've eaten meat? He asked, as he served up the rabbit. Too long, Rudy replied. Better take your time and chew it a good long time before swallowing. And be sure and stop eating before you're full. It'll sit hard on your stomach otherwise. Last thing I want on my hands is a kid with a bellyache. This is great, said Rudy after taking his first bite. It's the best thing I've tasted in months. I imagine it is. Nature is a lot kinder to us than the Germans are. Rudy's thoughts turned to his father, and for a moment he stopped eating. Oscar did not seem to notice. Out here, he continued, you'll find that you have everything you need, not just to survive, but to survive comfortably. If you have a sharp knife and a good head on your shoulders, you'll do fine. By the way, your father did give you a knife, didn't he? Yes, said Rudy, bringing his mind back to the conversation. He pulled the knife out of his pocket and showed it to Oscar. Looks good and sharp, said Oscar, taking it to examine. He then handed it back to Rudy. Now all you have to do is learn how to use it. What did you used to do? Before the war, I mean, asked Rudy, returning the knife to his pocket. I was a teacher. What did you teach? Asked Rudy, betraying a bit of surprise, for he could not imagine this rough man standing in front of a class. Science and math, Oscar replied. I used to bring my class out here to the forest several times a year. The forest is a great place to teach. We never get to come out here, said Rudy. Well, you're here now, and we'll start our classes tomorrow. Classes? Groaned Rudy. Didn't think you could avoid school forever, did you? Besides, a school shouldn't be a problem for a Kaplan. I know your father's a pretty smart man. You much like him? I'm working on it, said Rudy. Oscar nodded and shot a glance, almost of approval at Rudy. By the way, my father said that you were part of a resistance group. I haven't seen any other soldiers. Where are the rest? Asked Rudy. Everywhere, said Oscar. We break up during the day and spread out over the forest. It's safer that way. We only meet together at night. What do you do then? Asked Rudy. Anything we want to get at the Germans. You'll see tonight, he said while finishing his last bite. When you're done there, you might want to lie down by the fire and get some rest. You won't be getting much after dark.